Welcome to Zodiac Talks Tarot, the space where astrology is not just entertainment but a mirror of the human journey, a place where the wisdom of the stars meets psychology, philosophy, and sometimes a little humor to keep things grounded. I'm honored you're here because what we explore today is not simply a horoscope or a quick fix of cosmic advice. It's a deeper conversation about patterns, choices, and the ways the past has a curious habit of circling back when we least expect it. Today's focus is on Sagittarius, that restless fire sign who loves adventure but often finds themselves tripping over old stories they thought they had already closed. The reading before us is a bonus love reading, and it carries a theme as timeless as it is ironic. Someone from your past is trying to reach out, but there is a catch. And isn't that just the way life works? The moment you finally get comfortable, someone you once knew appears, knocking on your emotional door like a character in a novel you thought ended several chapters ago. The cards suggest a familiar energy, someone who once held a piece of your heart, now resurfacing with the promise or at least the hint of reconciliation. They may invite you to talk, to meet, to relieve the warmth that once was. But the universe, in its mischievous wisdom, leans over your shoulder and whispers, "Pay attention, Sagittarius. Not everything that shines is gold, and not every return is meant to be embraced." So today, we'll explore not only what this return means, but what it teaches about your growth, your boundaries, and your ability to laugh at the cosmic comedy of love. Because let's be honest, Sagittarius, you thrive when life throws you a plot twist. And this, my fiery archers, is one worth examining. The return of the familiar. Life has a way of circling back, doesn't it, Sagittarius? Just when you've convinced yourself that the past has been neatly folded, filed, and put away in the attic of memory, there's a knock at the door, or in modern terms, a ding on your phone. Suddenly, someone you once knew, perhaps too well, wants to see you again. The cards that frame this reading speak loudly, the Ace of Cups aligning with the Three of Cups. On one hand, we see the glimmer of romance, an offer, an emotional opening, an invitation. On the other, the convivial pull of gatherings and social delight. Put them together, and you have the recipe for an accidental reunion, a dinner invite, a birthday party, or the infamous "let's grab a drink, just to catch up." But make no mistake, this is not random. This is not the universe suddenly misdialing. This is the Six of Cups, the archetype of nostalgia, memory, and the resurfacing of old bonds. Think of it as that song you haven't heard in years that suddenly plays on the radio. You hum along before you realize you still know every word. It's comfortable, almost sweet, but you also remember why you stopped listening to it in the first place. Psychology has a term for this, the nostalgia trigger. It's a gentle but potent reminder that familiarity often feels like affection, even when it's not. Buddhism might frame it differently, attachment that resurfaces, cloaked as unfinished karma, whispering, "Come back, you still owe this story something." And as an astrologer who's watched countless cycles turn, I'll tell you this: when we don't close a chapter with integrity, when lessons go unlearned, the wheel of fortune doesn't retire. It keeps spinning, dragging us back to the same classroom until we finally pass the test. So here you are, Sagittarius. The past is calling, literally or metaphorically. The question isn't whether the call is real. It's whether you should pick it up. What they didn't give before. Now let's look closer, without rose-colored glasses. Yes, this person has been thinking about you. The Hermit card shows they've retreated, reflected, and perhaps realized what they lost. They might even imagine themselves enlightened, holding a lantern of wisdom they didn't have before. But before you start writing their redemption story, let's remember the Ten of Swords. This connection ended for a reason. Back then, they didn't try hard enough. Let's not sugarcoat it. Effort was minimal, affection was rationed, and commitment was more theory than practice. They offered sparks, Sure, but sparks without wood don't build a fire. You can't warm your life with a flicker. The Page of Pentacles reminds us of this, its energy that gestures at potential but doesn't follow through. A maybe dressed up as a promise. And you, Sagittarius, you remember. The crumbs when you deserved a feast. The emotional withholding that left you questioning your own worth. The selfish distribution of time and attention. The sense that you were carrying both sides of the connection, nurturing it while they treated it like an option on their calendar. Some of you will recall the exhaustion of waiting in half-light, of giving love that wasn't reciprocated with the same depth. And yet here comes the twist, they never really let you go. The Devil card is clear. They're still hooked, still circling you like a planet that never learned how to orbit on its own. They might be obsessed, replaying old conversations, scrolling through memories, stuck in the glue of what once was. But here's where wisdom steps in. Gravity is a law of nature, yes, but it's neutral. It holds us steady, but it can also pull us down. The question is whether their pull keeps you anchored in toxicity or helps you root into something real. In other words, don't confuse obsession with devotion. The spiritual thread. This is where things get tricky because many of you do feel the thread. That invisible tie that tugs at odd hours. You think of them, and the universe seems to conspire. Your playlist shuffles to your song, a stranger mentions their name, or they suddenly pop up in a dream only to text you the next day. It feels eerie, fated, undeniable. But let's take a breath here. Is it fate, or is it simply psychology? Our brains are wired for pattern recognition. Once someone makes an imprint, it's natural for memory to spotlight them when coincidences arise. It feels like destiny, but often it's just neurons firing with a touch of longing. From a Buddhist lens, even if this is karmic, it doesn't mean you're locked into a love story. Karmic ties aren't prisons, they're classrooms. They show up not to bind us forever, but to teach us. The lesson might be patience. It might be boundaries. It might even be the simple but profound act of saying no. If this is indeed a past life connection, then its purpose is not eternal romance but balance, release, and growth. The High Priestess and Hierophant affirm the depth here. This connection carries strong spiritual undertones. It may have been one of those rare bonds where silence spoke louder than words, where you felt seen in ways others couldn't reach. That's real. That's powerful. But spiritual doesn't always mean sustainable. Sometimes our spirits recognize in another person a mirror, not a partner. And mirrors are meant to reflect back our own unfinished work, not become the walls we live inside forever. Think of it this way, you can admire a mirror, even feel grateful for what it reveals, but you wouldn't marry your bathroom mirror, would you? You'd thank it for its clarity and then go live your life outside the glass. Sagittarius, this is the terrain you stand on, the past echoing back, someone remembering you, someone refusing to let go, and a bond that may feel unbreakable. But wisdom, whether astrological, psychological, or Buddhist, reminds us that return is not the same as repair, and obsession is not the same as love. The energy is real, yes, but so is your choice. And here's where a touch of humor saves us. Because honestly, life has a cosmic sense of comedy. Just when you've finally decluttered your heart, folded the emotional laundry, and felt ready to redecorate, here comes the ghost of relationships past, knocking with flowers they forgot to water years ago. If you don't laugh at the timing, you'll cry. And Sagittarius, laughter is your best shield. So ask yourself, is this person a lesson you've already learned, or an exam you need to retake? Do you want to reread the same old chapter, or are you finally ready to close the book and write a new one? Because the Six of Cups may call, the Devil may cling, and the High Priestess may whisper of fate, but in the end, the arrow of Sagittarius only knows one direction, forward. Sagittarius, Let's bring this home to you because the year of triumph 2025 isn't some vague cosmic slogan, it's a lived practice of choosing clarity over chaos and agency over accident. It's the year you reclaim your bow, your aim, and the strength in your shoulders after too many seasons of holding steady for people who wouldn't meet you halfway. You've done the on-again, off-again choreography long enough to qualify for a ballroom trophy, and the music always seemed to change right when you found the rhythm. Now you're wiser, and wisdom here means you know your worth not as a lofty idea but as a set of daily boundaries. When the universe calls the chosen ones forward, it is not to confirm that the past was right about you, but to confirm that you are right about yourself. The curriculum isn't repeat the lesson, it's demonstrate mastery, and mastery often looks like bowing with compassion and still declining the invitation that drags your heart back into yesterday. Humor me for a second. Imagine Odysseus finally reaching Ithaca, hugging Penelope, high-fiving Telemachus, then turning to the crew and saying, let's swing by Troy and see what they're up to. That's the plot twist nobody greenlights, and it's you when you entertain a toxic reunion without discernment. From their side, sure, the monologue is stirring, they feel the bond, they frame it as unbreakable, they arrive with the orchestral swell of romance, the solemn promise of seriousness, the maybe forever pledge they couldn't locate when it mattered, but from your side, the camera's in crisp focus, Queen of Swords composure, listening without leaning, weighing words against a very specific archive of history. You've got receipts, disappointment that taught you about emotional equity, tears that taught you about self-respect, inconsistencies that taught you about standards. You are not the same person, you're stronger, clearer, more aligned, which is to say you don't chase players, you set terms, and the terms are humane, not negotiable, honesty, effort, continuity, repair. The cards warn that their return is sudden, a tower moment that rattles the picture frames, a message out of the blue, a voice note at an unreasonable hour, a funny I was just thinking of you at exactly 11:11 as if numerology excuses negligence. The chemistry may spark, because bodies remember what brains outgrow, yet right behind the firework you'll see the old red flags in familiar formation, the Eight of Swords binds of habit, the Emperor's stiff armor of control and ego, a stubbornness that confuses rigidity with principle. It's like re-downloading that beloved video game from your teens, the menu music warms your heart, but 5 minutes in the graphics are dated, the glitch at level 3 still crashes the console, and you remember you once mistook difficulty for depth. You, Sagittarius, have leveled up. Why burn your new save file to replay a map that can't render your growth? Psychology gives us a clean lens here. People rarely circle back because they spontaneously realized your worth in a vacuum. More often, something in their life collapsed, a plan failed, a romance fizzled, an identity cracked, and memory reached for the warmest room in the house, which was you. Attachment theory calls this the magnetism of intermittent reinforcement. Inconsistent affection wires the brain to crave resolution. Your heart wasn't naive, it was trained. But psychology also insists on the baseline. Words announce change, behaviors prove it. If maturation hasn't taken root, the arc bends back to the same conflict with better lighting. That's why your Queen of Swords stance is not cold, it's ethical. Listen, but don't rush, observe, but don't bend, extend compassion, but not credit you can't afford. Buddhism adds the necessary mercy, practice non-attachment, not indifference, keep loving kindness in the room, but don't mistake it for consent to suffer, walk the middle path where compassion for another's karma never requires you to carry it for them. Impermanence is not a threat here, it's a blessing. Sagittarius, if there's one thing you've always known deep in your fiery soul, it's that life is both a battlefield and a comedy club. And right now, the universe seems to be handing you a front row ticket to irony. Think about it, the very person who once treated you as an afterthought may come storming back with the performance of a lifetime, declaring you the center of their universe. If Shakespeare were alive, he'd be scribbling notes. You might even laugh out loud when they deliver their grand speech, something along the lines of, "Now I see it, you're the love of my life." And you, standing there like the seasoned philosopher you are, can't help but smirk and think, "Really? Now you want to settle down? After I rebuilt myself brick by brick? After I became my own emperor, and not a very patient one?" The cosmic humor here is not lost on you. Laughter, Sagittarius, is your shield. It keeps you from confusing nostalgia with destiny, irony with obligation. You can chuckle at the drama, see the comedy in the timing, but also keep your discernment sharp enough to slice through illusions. Now, Spirit insists there's a catch, and this is where the deeper choice emerges. Returning to this connection could mean signing up for the rerun of a show you've already binge-watched, complete with plot holes, manipulation arcs, and disappointing cliffhangers. The Devil card has already shown you the traps, the inconsistencies, the endless promises that expired the moment they were spoken. Unless this person has not just polished their speech but truly transformed, stepping back into that cycle would risk the freedom you've fought to claim. Yet free will is your sacred gift. Some of you may genuinely feel that closure is needed, that one last conversation could release the karmic knot once and for all. Others of you will listen politely, perhaps even kindly, then walk away with your crown intact, grateful that you no longer confuse longing with clarity. The truth is, either choice can be right so long as it is made with your eyes open, your spirit steady, and your heart unclouded by old illusions. And now we arrive at the final wisdom, Sagittarius. The year of triumph 2025 is not simply a chapter, it is the unfolding of your higher self. You are among the chosen ones, not because life was generous with ease, but because it handed you fire and asked you to forge it into wisdom. That is no small task. When someone from the past reappears, remember, the real story is not about them at all, it is about you. Who have you become in their absence? What standards do you now hold that you didn't before? Do you still mistake drama for love, or do you now recognize that real love feels like a safe harbor rather than a storm? A true soulmate doesn't drain your energy, they expand it. A true partner doesn't keep you guessing, they steady your heart. And a true love isn't a sequel to a tragedy, it's an entirely new story co-authored by two souls who have both grown. So, Sagittarius, if curiosity calls, take the meeting, listen to the words, even laugh at the timing. But whatever you do, don't surrender your laughter, your crown, or your freedom. Because your destiny doesn't lie in the rearview mirror. It waits ahead, wide open, waiting for your arrow. And your bow, the essence of who you are, was never designed to aim backward. Your power, Sagittarius, lies not in who knocks on your door, but in who truly deserves to walk through it. You are stepping into a time where your standards, not your nostalgia, shape your reality. Let the past speak if it must, let it knock loudly if it wishes, but never forget you are the gatekeeper of your own triumph. So go forward, Archer. Laugh at the irony, embrace your freedom, and write the story that only you can write. Life is inviting you not to replay, but to compose. And if you've been wondering whether you're ready, know this, the year of triumph 2025 is your confirmation. Thank you for spending this time with me on Zodiac Talks Tarot. If today's journey resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these words or found strength in the perspective, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe. It helps this community grow, and it ensures you never miss another exploration of the wisdom the stars hold for you. Until next time, keep your fire alive, your laughter close, and your arrow pointed toward the horizon.